Hey everybody, Zach here, back again for the first time with another message from LETR-Z. That's lies exposed, truth revealed in the last days. Because the Elohim that we serve is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first to the last, the Aleph and the Ta, the A to the Z. And we are living in the Z. All glory to the Most High. We're going to be jumping back in here, the Prince of the Power of the Air. This is part 8, called Unclean Spirits in Our Day. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep, and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their Yahuwah, unto their Elohim? For the living to the dead, Isaiah 8 and 19. Age of electric, age of demons. Unknown to most, the rise of the electric age, 1800s, ran concurrently with a flurry of demon activity. The ramifications of occult persuasions admit to this. Of course, they don't necessarily claim devils were in operation. We have the Bible to tell us that, but they do recognize that the 19th century saw substantial growth in anti-biblical, anti-Messiah beliefs. Throughout Western history, from late antiquity to the present, there have been a number of related theological and philosophical currents that have been rejected as profane within some religious cultures and as regressive or irrational within certain secular discourses. However, following the discovery of ancient texts during the Renaissance, which led to the scholarly revival of occult subjects in the West, not only did aspects of these intellectual and spiritual currents become widely accepted, but they have been deceptively influential within the history of ideas. Moreover, as a result of the erosion of Christianity's hegemonic position in Western societies, the modern turn to self and the questioning of deference to traditional authorities, many of the fields of discourse generated by the occult sciences have survived into late modernity. Not only that, but having experienced a significant revival in the 19th century, they have been subsequently adopted and developed in ways that can hardly be ignored by contemporary scholarship. The occult, broadly defined, haunts the 21st century imagination, permeates popular culture, and contributes to new spiritual trajectories. Today, there is a thriving occulture that shapes the contours of everyday life. Particularly in the 19th century, there emerged a common trade in stock occultural elements, which began to shape the Western imagination. That is from Christopher Partridge, The Occult World, Routledge, London, England, 2015, page 1 and 11. Thus, not only did this era witness the rise of several cults which would later plague America and the world, like Mormonism, 1830s, Seventh-day Adventism, 1863, Jehovah's Witness, 1870s, and Christian Science, 1879. But it also birthed Marxism, 1848, Darwinism, 1860, Theosophy, 1875, and the Ku Klux Klan, 1871. But one of the major 19th century outbreaks of devilment came with a movement that openly professed communication with the dead, called spiritualism. It began in Newark, New York, in the small community in Hydesville. I thought Newark was in New Jersey, not New York. I could be wrong. I know there's a Newark, New Jersey, but this says it's in Newark, New York, in the small community of Hydesville. And in the very same county which gave us Joseph Smith's cult. Footnote: Spiritualism was birthed in 1848, the same year as Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, and about 10 miles from Palmyra, New York, where Mormonism began a few years earlier. Both Hydesville, Spiritism, and Palmyra, Mormonism, are located in Wayne County, New York. Amazing, isn't it? Also known as Spiritism, it was nothing less than necromancy. And like the new phenomena of electricity and the technologies that came with it, its deceptive tentacles quickly began to embrace the world. Spiritualism exploded on the scene in 1848 in the very midst of the burgeoning Electric Age, also known as Spiritism, necromancy, or divination. The movement advocated communication with the spirit world, which it believed to be ghosts of friends and loved ones. From this came the seance, and many other practices associated with the supposed communication with the dead. The Bible has always been against such things. It reveals that dead people are not the spirits with which these practitioners are in contact with. Their intercourse, rather, is with the unclean spirits of devils, often called familiar spirits. Leviticus 19 and 31, etc. A seance, late 1800s. What the internet is to the 21st century, the telegraph was to the 19th century. Samuel Morse had been perfecting his machine since the late 1830s, and by 1844, he was ready to demonstrate it publicly. The telegraph was a mind-boggling new invention. Its ability of instantaneous communication, in effect, eliminated time and space. No horse or train of the day could outrun or even approach the speed of its transmissions. Nothing like it had existed in the known history of the world. In his attempt to sell the telegraph to the U.S. government, Morse himself had even warned that it had the potential to become an instrument of immense power, to be wielded for good or for evil. Even in the hands of government alone, it might become the means of working vast mischief. That is from Linda Simon, Dark Lights, Harcourt Inc., San Diego, California, 2004, page 31. The public was not interested in such a device. To many, communicating thoughts through wires had the aura of the occult. That is from Ibid, so same source I just read from, but page 32. To try to dispel this negative perception, when Morse finally did go public on May 24th, 1844, he quoted the words, "What hath God wrought?" The message was taken from the Bible, Numbers 23:23. Many newspapers of the time attempted to reinforce Morse's description by calling the telegraph a miracle, whose invention was supposedly linked to the divine. In any case, the new gadget quickly became popular in trade circles. By 1858, a transatlantic telegraphy cable had been laid. By the 1870s, it was a staple in business. Although the average person outside of commercial life had little interaction with the device, this didn't stop publications from expounding on the wonders of its potential. The media proclaimed that, due to better communication among nations, the telegraph may eradicate war, or even give birth to a common world language, where citizens could take part in a global community. That is from Ibid, same source, page 39. The era of man-made globalism had begun. Here's a picture that says Heyday, the 1850s and the Dawn of the Global Age by Ben Wilson. I think it's a book. Only 4 short years after the advent of the telegraph, spiritualism erupted in America, 1848. Within 5 years of Morse's machine, a necromantic wave stretched across the Atlantic, birthing a global phenomenon. According to Kathy Gutierrez, a professor of religion and an authority on 19th century spiritualism and esotericism, scholars have estimated that half of Americans experienced spiritualism in some manner, and certainly hundreds of thousands adhered to it rigorously enough to belong to organizations or to subscribe to spiritualists' newspapers. That is from Christopher Partridge, The Occult World, Routledge, London, England, 2015, page 197. A former research fellow in religious studies at the University of Stirling, UK, has stated, in the late 1920s and early 1930s, there were around 250,000 practicing spiritualists and some 2,000 spiritualist societies in the UK, in addition to flourishing microcultures of platform mediumship and home circles. That is from Stephen J. Sutcliffe, Children of the New Age, Routledge, New York, 2002, page 35. And here's a picture. It looks like here's the picture of the book, Phenomenon of Spiritualism. Eight years into this hellspawn, 1856, Pastor J.W. Daniels wrote in his book Spiritualism versus Christianity, 1856. Spiritualism proves itself to be the Antichrist movement of the present age, and one of the worst delusions which has ever afflicted the world. But it is not all to be met by sneers and cries of humbug, ventriloquism, collusion, and cheat. Intelligent men, learned men, and strong men are wedded to the system. To whatever source this movement may be imputed, it is not the work of Yahuwah, of holy angels, nor departed saints. We deem the intercourse sinful, fascinating, deceptive, and very dangerous. It is the avowed purpose of the spiritualists to subvert the believers and establish their own religion on its ruins. Spiritualism is filling our land with demoniacs. That is from J.W. Daniels, Spiritualism versus Christianity, Miller, Orton, and Mulligan, New York, 1856, page 7, 8, 170, and 211. Secular historians agree that the enemy of the spiritualist movement was and still is run-of-the-mill Christians, or run-of-the-mill believers. From the height of the American Civil War to its end, 1861 to 1865, the desire to have spiritual intercourse with the dead increased, and spiritualism with it. Over the next 50 years, the movement gradually began to wane, but saw a strong upsurge on the heels of World War I, 1914 to 1918. One preacher, upon returning from England at the time, stated that spiritualistic meetings are being held all over the country, and there are seances on every street. So alarmed have the churches become that preachers are delivering sermons regarding it, and the religious press is printing weekly editorials. That is from James Martin Gray, Spiritism and the Fallen Angels in Light of the Old and New Testaments, Fleming H. Revel Company, Chicago, Illinois, 1920, page 14. James Martin Gray, 1851 to 1935, a contemporary of the time and former dean of the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago, reported, "The Sunday School Times recently called it the Devil's Worldwide Revival. The scientists bear witness that while there is a large element of fraud in Spiritism, there is still a residuum of facts demanding explanation." That is from James Martin Gray, Spiritism and the Fallen Angels in Light of the Old and New Testaments, Fleming H. Revel Company, Chicago, Illinois, 1920, page 33 and 36. From a one-page broadsheet exposing spiritualism, we have a spiritualist, Satan representing departed friend, and the medium, circa 1865. Secular journalist and author Lewis Spence, 1874 to 1955, who wrote the classic work An Encyclopedia of Occultism, 1920, stated about spiritualism. Although the movement in its present form, 1920, dates to no further back than 1848, it is possible to trace its ancestry to witchcraft, demoniac possession, poltergeist disturbances, and animal magnetism. In these, all the phenomena of spiritualism may be found, though the disturbing influences were not in the earlier instances identified with the spirits of the deceased. Clear indications of demonic possession had in their symptoms considerable analogy with modern spiritualism. And that is from Lewis Spence, An Encyclopedia of Occultism, Citadel Press and Carroll Publishing Group, Secaucus, New Jersey, 1996, page 380. Surprisingly, many of those who were attempting communications with the dead saw definite parallels between their movement and the new technologies of the day. When the movement first began, the telegraph became the primary metaphor for spiritualist communication. That is from Christopher Partridge, The Occult World, Routledge, London, England, 2015, page 201. Messages sent and received via the telegraph suggested the operation of invisible forces. Spiritualists viewed the human body in like manner, where it acted in place of the telegraph as a sender and receiver of the unseen. However, I'm not just picking on the telegraph. The spiritualist movement welcomed all electric age technologies. For spiritualist and left-leaning Protestant groups, science was embraced, ready to experiment with new machines, medical theories, and avant-garde forms of knowledge. Spiritualism remained convinced that science would further rather than erode religion. That is from Ibid, page 204. In other words, electricity and technology were viewed as a means to helping heaven manifest on earth. Although spiritualism lacked any central or official governing body, there were beliefs common to all those who seriously adhered to it. Spiritualism's greatest legacy was the dismantling of hell. By opening heaven to all and repeatedly finding an inclusive and superior culture in the afterlife, spiritualists carried a new moral code across a century and several continents to inaugurate what would become multiculturalism in the current world. That is from Ibid, page 205 to 206. Other common beliefs, along with religious pluralism, consisted of 1. The belief in communication between the living and the dead. 2. The continuation of the spirit after death. 3. The belief in the existence of a heaven. consisting of various tiers, usually 7, which one could progress through in the afterlife, and 4, the use of heaven as a model for what an ideal earth might become. That is from Christopher Partridge, The Occult World, Routledge, London, England, 2015, page 197. Many later spiritualists became theosophists, or other more hardline occultists. Theosophy had its roots in spiritualism. Both Helena Petrovna Blavatsky and her lifelong follower and patron, Colonel Henry Alcott, were spiritualists prior to the founding of the Theosophical Society in 1875. That is from Ibid, page 205. It's important for the believer reader to understand what's going on here, spiritually speaking. When one steps back at looks at the history of the 19th century, electrification and the advanced technologies derived from it represent the defining characteristics of the age. Parallel to this, however, and in regards to spiritual matters, intercourse with devils was the hallmark of the age. In light of what's been discussed up to this point, the fact that incidences of electricity and devil activity suddenly appear together on a mass scale should cause us to stop and think. Is it a coincidence that this worldwide eruption in demonism parallels the arrival of the electric age? Is it a coincidence that this demonism parallels an explosion of knowledge in its century and those that follow? Is it a coincidence that this demonism helped birth the modern ideologies of liberalism and feminism? The phrase progressive concerning certain political ideas is nothing new. The very words were often used to describe political offshoots of spiritualism. Early spiritualism perceived itself as a voice of the progressive movements of the time. That is from James R. Lewis, Melton J. Gordon, Elwood Roberts, Perspectives on the New Age, State University of New York Press, Albany, New York, 1992, page 61. By the 1860s and 1870s, one could sit for spirit photographs, attend spirit lectures on a range of progressive social and religious issues, and take part in carefully orchestrated seances at which ghosts materialized, voices spoke through levitating trumpets, messages wrote themselves on sealed slates, and mediums' bodies emitted disconcerting quantities of strange, filmy substance known as ectoplasm. That is from Helen Sward, Ghost Writing Modernism, Cornell University Press, Ithaca, New York, 2002, page 2. The 19th century is the turning point at which people could self-identify as spiritualists, which carried, at least in the United States, associations with progressive politics as well as religious pluralism. That is from Christopher Partridge, The Occult World, Routledge, London, England, 2015, page 197. Most spirit mediums were women, with many voting rights activists among them. Mary Todd Lincoln brought a progressive influence into the Civil War era White House from those who claimed to speak to voices from beyond. Until her death, she never recanted her beliefs. That is from Mitch Horowitz, Mary Todd Lincoln, Spiritualist, Medium, 16th of July, 2018. The primary leaders within the spiritualist movement were women. Women made up the vast majority of those who engaged in its mediumship, trance channelings, spirit readings, automatic writings, automatic drawings, seances, talking in tongues, telekinesis, clairvoyance, table tipping, and more. In fact, 3 young girls helped open the floodgates for the phenomenon: Leah, Margaret, and Kate Fox. The name Fox in Gematria actually equals out to 666. F is the 6th letter of the alphabet. O is the 15th letter of the alphabet. 1 plus 5 equals 6. X is the 24th letter of the alphabet. 2 plus 4 equals 6. Very simply, it's 666. I don't know about the people out there, people named Megan, people named Michael, people, I don't know. I don't know if they have any correlation to this whatsoever, but the news channels out there, you might be pro CNN, you might be pro Fox. Neither one of them are really good. They're all owned by the devil. One of which was a 15-year-old, the other 12. Imagine, if you can, a religious movement started by a 12-year-old. As for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. O my people, which they lead thee, cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. Isaiah 3:12. In 1856, Dr. William Ramsey wrote of a family in Philadelphia which had begun to partake in spiritualist phenomena. The father of that family stated to the doctor, "We can turn the tables in our house, levitate, move. Our little 14-year-old daughter can do it easily, but we can't do it without her." Upon having his daughter give a demonstration of these things, the father then asked her if she could attempt to write something through automatic writing, which allows a spirit to guide one's hand. She did so, and the question was put, who moved her hand? Immediately, in large, distinct letters, she wrote the word devil. When she lifted up her pencil and saw the word she had written, she dropped the pencil, and a shudder passed over her that shook her whole frame. She evidently felt afraid, and her parents were silent. They looked amazed. At length, the father said, "I guess we had better stop now." The conclusion that our friend drew from what he saw was that there must have been a mind different from anyone then present controlling her hand, for no one had suggested that name, and surely the little girl herself had not intended to write the word. What led her to do it? That is the question. That is from William Ramsey, Spiritualism, a Satanic Delusion and a Sign of the Times, H.L. Hastings, Peacedale, Rhode Island, 1856, page 54. In any case, this mass communication with the dead lead with the help of many captive silly women, 2 Timothy 3 and 6. Created a social code in which women become the perfect vehicles for a host of new communication technologies. Mesmeric trance, states, and spiritualist messages set the stage for a new sphere of female white-collar workers. Court stenographers, touch typists, shorthand takers, and telephone and telegraph operators. That is from Christopher Partridge, The Occult World, Routledge, London, England, 2015, page 202. In plainer words, since it was primarily women who had experience in communication with demon spirits, this fostered an environment favorable to women in communications technologies. Early communication technologies: telegraph, telephone, telewoman. One believer doctor of the time, Sir Henry Lunn, stated of the predominance of women in the spiritualist movement. There can be nothing more pernicious, subtly harmful, for our nation than that sorrowing woman, instead of seeking in quiet waiting upon Yahuwah for the comfort which he gave to the sorrowing sisters of Bethany, instead of resting upon the profound truth which he proclaimed to them. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth on me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Should seek by the wretched mechanism of planchettes, early Ouija boards, and by automatic writings to penetrate the mysteries which Yahuwah, in his wisdom, has veiled from humanity. This way lies madness. That is from Colson Kernaham, Spiritualism, A Personal Experience and a Warning. Fleming H. Revel Company, Chicago, New York, London, 1920, page 9 and 10. Spirits of the 21st Century. In the last several sections, we've covered some pretty interesting stuff. Earlier in the book, we mentioned that there exists some kind of perplexing relationship between electrical phenomena and the spirit world. The example we gave was that at death, science says all such electric activity in the body stops, while the Bible says that at death, the body surrenders up the spirit. This parallel between the two end-of-life events set the stage for other possible connections. Later, we cited cases of people being struck by lightning, who then acquired various abilities often associated with mysticism and demonism, including mind reading, astral projection, divination, healing, clairvoyance, necromancy, and such. Next, we looked at several instances of witnesses who had encounters with unexplained aerial lights, and how these mystifying orbs contradicted the laws of established physics, many times displaying seeming intelligence. All of these things have helped illustrate that some electromagnetic events can manifest connections with spirit activity, not just the ceasing of electric current within the body at death. Many questions remain unknown regarding this. For example, in the cases of lightning strike victims who then obtain occult abilities, are these instances of the devil manipulating natural lightning, or is something more spiritually intricate taking place? Why and how does demon possession take place with some people involved with what seems to be ordinary lightning bolt encounters? Can unclean spirits be transferred into people via lightning? Or maybe, in certain cases, what appears to be lightning is not lightning at all. Maybe the things these witnesses are seeing are actually evil spirits under the guise of electric phenomena. Regardless of what the specifics may involve, there's no doubt that some people have experienced demonism simply by coming in contact with electricity or what outwardly appears to be electricity. This leads to the question that if devils can have such an intimate relationship with electromagnetic events, what else are these spirits capable of within the electric spectrum? This helps us realize the sweeping extent of the prince of the power of the air, and may give us more insight into why the scriptures speak of Satan as lightning. Luke 10:18. In considering these things, it makes one wonder if there may be a kernel of truth to Aladdin's lamp, where a devil is manifest when some form of electricity is produced. Rubbing metal vigorously creates a static charge. For Aladdin, this act summoned a genie, or jinn. What if one of these reasons for the worldwide demonic eruption of the 1800s was, in part, the result of man's involvement with the new power of electricity? Do the two events parallel each other because of this connection? What if, like in the field of biology, where science is ignorant of the spirit, that other branches of science are equally ignorant of spirit activity within these respective fields? We briefly mentioned this earlier, but does this indicate that certain forms of modern science are unknowingly acting in concert with demons? What if some of the things traveling through the air today are not actually what science says they are? Electromagnetic waves, radio waves, cell phone waves, wired and wireless internet, etc. Could modern electrical technologies involve more than we realize? Could they have some sort of link to the spiritual? Is such a thing even possible? According to Scripture, it is. In trying to get you to think outside the box, this book has attempted to demonstrate this. I want you to put on your biblical thinking caps. 1 Thessalonians 5:21, 2 Peter 1:19. Your supernatural thinking caps, 1 John 4:1, Luke 10:18. Your spiritual discernment thinking caps, Ephesians 6:2, 2 Timothy 3:1. Don't be intimidated by the science-only crowd, 1 Timothy 6:20. Remember, the religious men in the Bible who did not believe in spirits were the Sadducees, Acts 23:8. Many of these people had a form of godliness, but denied the power thereof, 2 Timothy 3:5. Anyone who denies the power of Yahuwah will certainly deny the power of the devil, like the kind of power he wielded against Job. See Job 1:1 and 2. This describes modern academia perfectly, the ones who supposedly know all about electricity. When Aladdin rubbed his golden lamp, a demon appeared. Metal rubbed vigorously creates a static charge, a form of electricity. Gold, by the way, is not only what Aladdin's lamp was made from, but is one of the most proficient conductors of electricity. Today, gold is one of the primary metals contained in electronic devices. A huge percentage of the major technologies of the 21st century is made possible by a force with ties to the phantom world. Could this be an indicator that Satan is more involved with society today than ever before in history? With all the technological things that have gone on with the air and in the air in the past 2 centuries, what grounds do we have to stand on to say that the prince of the power of the air is irrelevant? In the sections that follow, we will briefly cover a few issues of modern technology which suggest demonic involvement. Well, that completes part 8. I thank you so much for spending some time with me. Hopefully you've learned something as I have. And we will pick up in the next section, part 9, titled The City with No Night. And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. Revelation 16:19. Thank you again. Yahuwah bless you. Stay prayed up. Stay in your word. Speak to Yahuwah daily, consistently, and constantly, and call on the Son's name, Yahushua HaMashiach, the Messiah. Bless you. Love you. Bye.